Hi, this is Jason, and it can be really exciting to hear about a brand new psychological treatment. But in today's video, I'd like to show you 3 reasons why it's best to remain cautious. Let me show you this video here about a new treatment for fears and phobias. As soon as we're done watching this clip, I'd like to chat with you a little bit about 3 reasons why I remain cautious about this exciting new treatment.
What we do in memory reconsolidation intervention is we target the fear memory itself and try to weaken or even erase the memory.
My name is Elisa and I'm here to try and fix my spider phobia, I guess you can call it.
Let me enter this room.
Okay.
So then I'm going to ask you some questions about your spider phobia.
The day of my treatment, I got there and I had to fill in a lot of questions about my phobia first. And then they asked me to go to the other room where the spider was.
Okay, so let's stop right there and talk about the first reason. And this applies to almost all psychological research. There is something referred to as demand characteristics. And what is meant by demand characteristics is this: that the participant in the research feels pressure to be a good research participant.
I'm a good boy.
And to help the researcher prove their hypothesis. And in really excellent research, you can hide the hypothesis from someone to eliminate the demand characteristics. But if you look at what happened in this particular experiment, it's very clear we think this treatment is going to help with your spider phobia. And there's simply no way, I think, to hide what the expected hypothesis is. So demand characteristics were very strong. I think in this particular case, you can add into the fact that this clearly was done in something like a clinical or a university setting, which puts, some more kind of demand characteristics into the mix. It's also being filmed, which gives the participant even more reason to be a good research participant and move and help the researcher get the results that they're looking for.
I'm a good boy.
You might think that nobody would actually do that. If you're scared of a spider, there's no way that you would actually, bend reality to try and help the researcher. However, the history of psychological research shows that people are very willing to help a researcher. If you just think of Nazi Germany, the gulags, many of these situations, people will do things that are even unethical and horrible in order to please people that they see being in authority or please experts. There was a famous experiment in which Stanley Milgram asked people to shock somebody else, and it was a sham. People were play acting, but the participants did not know that, and a certain percentage of them would continue shocking another human being until that person stopped being responsive, even though they were pleading for it to stop and saying how much it hurt. The experimenter would say, "The experiment must continue. Please press the button." There is something about psychological research in general, that brings out in us a desire to help the researcher. So let's go on a little bit and look at the next 2 things that I think are very important here.
He was in a cage and the door was open. I immediately saw that the door was open, and they asked me to get close to a line on the ground, or to at least get close to the line, and if I could go further near the cage, and I couldn't even get close to the line.
What could happen?
Yeah, I know nothing will probably happen, but I'm just scared.
Yeah.
First, I ask them to touch the tarantula. I ask them how much fear they experience, how much distress they experience, up to a maximum of fear memory reactivation. And when they are really in a mode of approaching the tarantula, they in fact do not touch the tarantula. I stop, I close the tank, and we walk to the other room.
Okay, there is so much going on there that it's hard to label it all. But you'll see something called expectancy effects. Expectancy effects, there's two kinds. There's the researcher themselves expects that this treatment is really going to work. Clearly, this researcher, this is her project, or she's somebody who works for the person whose project this is, and she expects that it will work. And that is communicated through the social interaction that she believes this will work. She brings the person over, has them stand at the line, all with the expectancy of, by doing this, I'm actually helping the person. If they didn't believe in the treatment and they didn't expect it to work, they would not be as enthusiastic or as persuasive about getting the person to stand close to the spider. So those expectancy effects are huge, and that is why many studies attempt to be double blind.
You can see though, right?
I'm legally blind, I can see, barely.
Meaning the person receiving say it's a pill, the person receiving the pill is blind. They don't know if they're getting the real pill or a fake. And the person giving them the pill doesn't know. Because if the person giving them the pill expects that they're going to get better, those tiny cues in the social interaction will actually improve outcomes. Just the fact that I as the researcher think this is going to help you will improve your outcomes, because I'm hopeful and expectant that it will change. There's also the expectancy of the subject who's picking up on all of this, and they have signed up to go do this. Now they've got to deal with the cognitive dissonance of, I hate spiders. Why did I just walk up to that line? They can resolve that cognitive dissonance of, why did I go and stand next to something I'm very afraid of? They can resolve that by saying, well, because I really think this treatment is going to work. That's why I'm willing to go confront something that I would much rather flee from. So both the experimenter and the participant are both full of expectancy effects when it comes to this experiment. Now, the final thing that I want to share with you about why it's difficult to trust these results has to do with the fact that this treatment contains elements of other treatments. You can think of it this way, that if I'm testing painkillers and I give you a brand new painkiller that is wrapped in an aspirin, I can't be sure if the painkiller worked because it's a great painkiller or if it worked because of the aspirin, because the two things I gave them both to you. There's a treatment called exposure treatment, and in which you take somebody who's fearful of something and you just get them to agree to expose themselves to the thing they're fearful of. And what happens is, over time, as you're exposed to that thing and nothing terrible happens, your body begins to relax and you fear it less. You can think of this in the same way that you might hear a lawnmower next door when it first comes on, but if they're mowing for a while and you're reading a book, you might actually tune it out after a while because you become habituated to it and you're only really paying attention to things that are new. Some researchers have just sort of given up, I guess, and will just include these expectancy and demand characteristics as part of the treatment because there's no way to eliminate them. So in fact, we should probably try and activate them even more and really communicate clearly the expected hypothesis of you being here, really communicate clearly that I have the expectancy that you're going to do better, and really try and activate that hope and expectancy in the client. I don't think that's a bad route to go, but I'm just saying when someone comes and says, we've got a pill that's going to cure phobias, they haven't really proven that. is at least not an experiment like this one. And I don't know how you would. I think it's really difficult to create an experiment that would eliminate all of those things.